What the f?
Big Al's Bike and Auto here, coming at you, and I wish it was better circumstances, but I finally have my Mustang moment after having this car for about a decade. Tonight, unfortunately, I did it very wrong, and obviously not intentionally. I hit a tree. You can see the wood right here in the front. Hit a tree, and then we spun out again into a ditch, and you can see back here the rear bumper popped out and the muffler is just hanging there. This needs to be popped back into the bracket, but this is obviously not very good. I'm not sure how bad the damage is, to be honest, because I can't get the hood open. The radiator cracked and it leaked coolant out, God knows how much. My beautiful factory HID headlights are cracked. My aftermarket marker light seems to have survived, just got pushed in. But front bumper gone, hood gone, fender gone. You look at the frame rail here. To be honest, it's so hard to tell out here right now what's damaged, what isn't. It looks like it is. This is not good. This is going to be a major repair. Could even be totaled out. Who knows? I sure as shit hope not. We were about 3 feet away because we hit an area where there was a wall and trees, and just to the side of it there was a massive cliff down into a ravine. I kid you not. Because a lot of mountains up here. If I had crashed 3 to 5 feet before where I actually crashed, we would have went over into that ravine, rolled over, and God knows what would have happened from there. That's the story, guys. This video probably not going to be over. If it is, thanks for watching. If it's not, here comes the next clip. Alright, so this is a long overdue video, and I'm surprised more of you haven't asked me what happened to my Bullitt, because after I moved to New Hampshire last year, this car pretty much disappeared from my channel. And I have an answer for that. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best situation at first, but I made lemonades out of lemons and brought this car back to life the way I always wanted it. Fall of 2018, shortly after moving to New Hampshire, where I had an incident with, of course, a deer in the woods of New England. I was coming around a corner in a back road of New Hampshire. A fun corner to come into in a car like this that handles pretty well. The Bullitts have a Shelby suspension from the factory. So admittedly, I was driving a little bit spirited. I had a buddy of mine with me. We weren't doing anything crazy, nothing that would get you pulled over, but certainly came into that corner with a little bit of speed. And just my luck, as I enter the corner, a deer jumps out in the road, and Mustangs are already known for their lack of traction. You add that to my original tires on this car, which you can see have no tread left on them, and they're dry rotted, they're in terrible condition. And I still had the tires on the vehicle because I knew I'd be parking it for the winter, and I said no sense in putting new tires on it just to have them get flat spots while it sits until spring. When that deer jumped out with my bald tires and already coming into the corner a little bit quick, I lost control. The vehicle spun out God knows how many times. When you have an accident like that, everything's just a blur. I just remember us spinning around quite a few times, and I think that was a good thing because it kind of slowed the vehicle down. What stopped us was a tree and a rock and a ditch. Now, fortunately, I hit an empty field in the middle of nowhere. There was no property damage. Nobody else was injured, no pedestrians or anybody else on the road. My buddy was unharmed. I was unharmed. The airbags did not deploy, which isn't good because I I really messed this thing up. This car for sure should have deployed its airbags, but it has the Takata airbags. I have one of them replaced under the recall, and one of them they did not have the part when I brought it in. I believe it was my airbag on the driver's side that had not been replaced, although I would rather have been me than my friend being injured in that accident. But fortunately, the airbags did not deploy, and we were uninjured anyway, so nobody had any metal fragments go into their face. And if the airbags had deployed, surely this car would have been totaled, and there would have been no way I could convince my insurance company to let me fix it. So anyway, if you haven't noticed yet, there's something a bit different about my Bullitt Mustang, and this is what happened over the past year. This is something I always wanted to do to my Bullitt, which is a GT500 front-end conversion. But I could never justify hacking up a perfectly good car and changing the front end, especially since I own this car from when it was barely a year old with only a few thousand miles on it. So I just want to point out quickly, I haven't washed this car since July when I picked it up from the body shop, and they obviously have washed it and detailed it when it was done. But I haven't washed it since, so it's got some bug splats on the front end. It's got some dirt on the sides. I've been caught in the rain a few times, so don't judge the condition of the vehicle based upon the dirt that's on it. My body guy I've known for years. He's the only guy I go to, and he did a great job on this car, and he was very accommodating in me doing this custom front-end conversion, which, as far as I know, no one else has done on a Bullitt to this extent. A lot of guys have done the bumper and the headlights, obviously, which you need to do the GT500 front end, but you could do a different hood. And I think I'm the only person that's actually done a factory GT500 hood versus one of those carbon fiber ones or the Super Snake ones that have the big nostrils right here. Again, that's a little bit too much for me. I like my vehicles a little more subtle and sleek, and I wanted this Bullitt to have as much of an OEM look as possible. So I did a full true GT500 front end conversion with all Ford OEM parts. I also did the rear bumper to the GT500 bumper, which is the same bumper as the California Special. You can actually buy the California Special bumper cheaper. It's just the way they paint it. On the GT500, the whole bottom is flat black like that, and on the California Special, only the middle diffuser area is black. But as you can see, the car still has a beautiful shine to it, even when it's dirty. I always took really good care of this Bullitt. I used to wax it once a month. It's always been garage, but I'm also not afraid to drive it and enjoy it. And that's why, again, you see it right now, it's dirty. It's got bug splats, got dirt all over the thing because it's a car it's meant to be driven and enjoyed. It's still a clean title because remember, things only get a salvage title. If insurance totals them, then they go to auction and then someone buys it and rebuilds it from there. But this is still a clean title vehicle. The insurance company originally wanted to total the Bullitt. The frame on the passenger side was significantly bent in. The whole front end was pretty much destroyed, but all the glass was intact, and the real miracle thing is that there was no rear quarter damage, because when I spun out and crashed, the front end hit the tree, and the back end, after it slid around even more from hitting the tree, hit a rock, and it hit this wheel. The rim got scratched up, but surprisingly didn't do any major damage to the rim. I think it had knocked this rocker cover off loose, the exhaust was hanging off in the back, and it really damaged the rear bumper. But no rear quarter damage at all. So to me, it was almost meant to be that this car is meant to be saved because the airbags didn't deploy, the rear quarters never got hit. It was all replaceable parts of the car. So my insurance company wanted me to total it. My body guy was able to talk them into letting me fix it, and part of that had to do with me sourcing a lot of the parts myself, especially for the GT500 nose conversion. Because for me, if I couldn't put the GT500 nose on it, at that point, I would have just let them total the car. And I spent every penny of that insurance budget, and we did a lot of adjustments and things. It was a lot of back and forth. That's why it took so long. I crashed this car in October. It wasn't done until July. And part of that was me letting my body guy tuck it in the back for the whole winter because it was free storage for me and it gave me time to source the parts. It wasn't easy finding a GT500 OEM hood in pretty much perfect condition. Repainted it. It was off a black GT500. It had the racing stripes on it. The front bumper and the rear bumper are new, directly from Ford. They weren't that expensive, believe it or not. They were actually the same cost as the Bullitt bumpers. So that was nice, but I had to get the fog lights and all the other brackets and things that mount this bumper up. versus the bumper that the car came with. Now the fog lights aren't wired. It's something I plan on doing in the future, but by the time we started putting this car together finally, it was summertime and I just wanted the car back. So I said, put the fog lights in, cap them off, and I'll deal with them in the future. Those are the marker lights I had on the car before. I'll throw in a picture. By some miracle, they survived the accident because you can't buy these anymore. I'm sure you can buy something similar, but I always like these ones and I researched them for a while. I think I got them from American Muscle back in 2010. So obviously we had to change the radiator support, the radiator, a whole bunch of other stuff. The frame was bent back into place. Those fenders are replacement fenders, which that worked out too, because the old front driver's fender actually had a huge dent in it when a buddy of mine backed into the car years ago at a car show. The car still drives perfectly straight. Matter of fact, this has not been realigned since the accident. There was no damage to any of the steering components in that accident. The car drives no differently than it used to. And again, I've had this car for years. I would have noticed a difference right away. It drives exactly the same. Headlights are used off of a wrecked GT500. They are in really good shape. Again, there's some bug splats on there, but they had no pitting, no yellowing, anything like that. Those headlights used were $1,200. New from Ford, $2,500. And it took me a long time to get a pair of headlights in that good a condition. I waited. It pretty much took me all winter. These headlights had perfect tabs, perfect lenses, perfect everything. They had the ballast still. They were plug and play, and they were worth every penny. So my exhaust was damaged from the accident too. And I had the GT500 KR mufflers in the car before, which had a great sound. They just helped enhance the Bullitt sound that these cars have. It's so unique. But I always wanted it to be a little more loud. So since my mufflers were damaged in that accident, I went ahead and got the Corsa Extreme Performance mufflers. These are a very high-end muffler. Love the way these mufflers sound. They're still breaking in. I'm so happy to have my Bullitt back. I really love this car, and the way I thought about it when my insurance company wanted to total the thing out, I just couldn't picture myself without this car. So we pushed and we pushed and we pushed, and we got the insurance company to let me fix it, and I don't regret that one bit. Now, the reason I have this magazine here is this is what made me buy this car. I bought the Bullitt back in 2010. It was just barely a year old. This is a 2009 model. And back in 2007, or actually, according to this, January 2008, I remember though, I was about to board a plane, and back then you didn't have Wi-Fi on planes or smartphones that were that smart, so you used to buy magazines or bring a book with you and read on the plane. So I bought this at one of those newsstands at the airport and saw this right here, the Bullitt is back. Now, I always thought the 2001 Bullitt was pretty cool. I always like Mustangs and Camaros and stuff like that, but I don't like the ones that are over the top most of the time. Sometimes I do, but I usually like my muscle cars to be a little more subtle, sleeper looking, and classier looking to me. You guys know I'm a luxury car guy. I have all sorts of Cadillacs, Mercedes, BMWs. So when I have a muscle car, a pony car, whatever you want to call it, I like it to have a bit of luxury to it, a bit of class, and be sleek. Most Mustangs and Camaros are very in-your-face. They're bright red with hood scoops and spoilers and body kits and big flashy wheels, and that's not really my style. So I always admired the 2001 Bullitts. I always thought of buying one, and then I saw this article back in early 2008 that the Bullitt was back, and I absolutely fell in love with what this car was. Ford designed this generation Bullitt to be the perfect balance between a track car, a daily driver, a show car, basically the perfect all-around Mustang. I loved the dark Highland green color that it has from the factory. Now you could also get these in black. You could get the 01 Bullitts in even more colors, I believe blue, and there might be another one I'm forgetting. I know there was multiple other colors. But I love the dark Highland green. And this color is based off the original Bullitt car, which for those who don't know, there was a movie called Bullitt back in the 60s that featured a 1968 fastback Mustang in dark Highland green. And the highlight of that movie is a car chase that takes place in San Francisco were just like this Bullitt is pictured here. They were flying down the streets of San Francisco, getting massive air off these hills, and that was a very famous, very well-known, and very much loved car chase that stayed in the minds of car enthusiasts for decades to come, so much so that Ford brought out the Bullitt Mustang. Originally in 2001, then in 2008 for my generation S197 here, and now the Bullitt is back for 2019 and 2020. So as I was saying, when I saw this car in that magazine, I fell in love with its balance of track car / show car and also daily driving ability. Believe it or not, there was a time where I still bought new or very slightly used vehicles. Nowadays, you guys see me buy a lot of much older vehicles that have fully depreciated, but you never see me buy new vehicles anymore. Back then, I still bought new vehicles because new vehicles were still somewhat analog. Today, whether you're buying a Mustang, a BMW, whatever it may be, that's no longer the case. Everything has electric steering, electric this, power that, crazy infotainment systems, screens everywhere. They're hardly even cars anymore. They're basically appliances. And while I know the new Mustangs make substantially more power than my Bullitt right here, it's not about the power for me. My taste in vehicles should tell you guys how I like to drive. I do drive spirited sometimes, but for the most part, I like to cruise around, hear the nice sound of a V8 engine, and just enjoy the ride. It's like people who like sailboats versus people that like power boats. For me, driving is about the journey, not about how quick I get to the destination. Well, I guess it depends on the day of the week. Okay, so this is the best I could do with the camera angle. Again, I'm using an iPad, it's a big one, and I wanted to be able to keep this on so the audio isn't too bad, but this is probably going to be a pretty lousy clip. You're not really getting a feel for riding in the car, you're just looking at my head. But maybe you can hear the sound of the exhaust. I'm not sure. I got a nice open strip here. I'm going to get on her a little bit and enjoy her. Hopefully the iPad doesn't come falling over and break on my shift knob. Anyway, let me go ahead and do that, and I'll talk to you in a minute. This car is just the right amount of analog, balanced with modern reliability. And this 4.6 is such a reliable engine. To this day, knock on wood, this car, besides the accident, has not needed a single mechanical repair of any kind. But besides regular oil changes, this vehicle has needed nothing. Nothing. That's a wonderful ownership experience, and yet another reason that I decided to keep the car and fix it as opposed to totaling it, because the car's been so good to me. Another option I wanted in my Bullitt, and another reason I bought this particular Bullitt, is it has the Shaker 1000 sound system. From the factory, it has a 1,000-watt sound system with two 10-inch subwoofers in the trunk. And this thing, the bass, it bumps. I would play you guys a sample, but this will distort it completely, and I'll probably get demonetized. You can even change the color of the gauges. It's factory, not just those footwell lights and the cup holder lights. I can change the color of the gauges. I can even do a custom color that pulls up a thing like Microsoft Paint where I can mix colors to make it a certain color. It's crazy. I mean, I was obsessed with this car after I read that magazine article, and I just kept researching them. When I finally had the money, just a couple years later, I bought one. So that's going to do it, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next one.